We're going to start out with the Pledge of Allegiance as normal. We have a flag here. So if you could all rise and do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Terry is going to do the roll call. So if you could answer her and then mute again, that would be great. Terry?
Barr.
Here.
Swanson. Eckhoff. Callis.
Here.
Hauser.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Bradshaw. Here. Myers.
Here.
Gaber.
Here.
Willie.
Here.
Thank you. We need to have a meeting of the Civic Center Authority. Having no business before the authority, we will adjourn that meeting now and move on to our consent agenda, which has 2 items. Anyone have a discussion they want to bring in?
I make a motion.
Kelly, are you trying to speak because you're muted?
I thought I unmuted, sorry. I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Second by
Gaber.
Ryan Gaber. Another roll call coming up. Terry?
Barr.
That's on you.
Can you unmute, please?
Yes.
Barr.
Yes.
Eckhoff.
Yes.
Callis.
Yes.
Hauser.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Bradshaw.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Gaber.
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the regular agenda, item A is the ordinance regarding the rezoning of 801 West Water Street with Marlin Isles addition. And I've misplaced the ordinance here. Bob, do you have something on that?
Maybe, Marlon, you want to just give a little rundown of what you're proposing to do, please?
Hi, everybody. So we bought 801 West Washington in October, or West Water, I'm sorry, which was a previous rental property that was pretty bad disrepair. And then we also bought 802 West Washington north of the alley. So it's essentially the west side of the southernmost, right by the Ladd Street Bridge. So we actually just knocked down 801 West Water, which is closer to the bridge. And then the old Farm Mutual building, we are currently using for extra office space. But long term, depending on how everything shakes out, possibly have new construction for office building, for a new office building there at the Washington location. So what we're going to do with 801 West Water is possibly use it for a parking lot. But in order to do that, it was previously residential and needs to be, I'm sorry, Dave, you'll have to correct me. Is it B4? B3, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And
it is the only, at this point, residential zone property on Ladd Street south of Howard.
correct.
Most of Howard is commercially zoned.
Excuse me, should you decide to build, is that a single story or multi-story building after that?
We haven't made that decision, but possibly best case scenario, maybe a story and a half is what we're looking at for possibilities, but no more than that.
Marlon, do you plan on just having one building on between the two lots?
No, it's not going to be, because it's an alleyway, so we weren't able to combine the two lots.
Gotcha.
So we're actually going to stay building on the Washington Street, the parameters of that. Dave was kind enough to be able to work with me on what those clearances need to be from the borders. And then we are going to use the Water Street, which is this ordinance request for parking and green space.
Gotcha.
And then the alley will stay accessible.
Marlon, Jerry Causer.
Yep.
Hey, are you going to add on to the existing building?
No,
Or are you turning
we're more than likely going to knock it down. The condition of the building short term is fine, but there's issues with foundation and just general wear and tear. That
Just
long
wanted-
term, it wouldn't be the best case scenario. But the soonest we would build is maybe a year and a half. But depending on where everything shakes out, it could be longer.
Dave,
Well, I'd move for a passage of ordinance 2020-0-027 as presented.
Myers, second.
any other comments from Dave Wilson?
No, the only comment I have is just to note that he's one of only 3 remaining R4 districts in the entire Ladd Street corridor. Everything else is B3. And in the code ordinance section 103478 requires this to be rezoned to B3 because you're not allowed to have a parking space accessory in a residential district.
Thank you.
Having a motion and a second, we'll have a roll call, please.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Callis,
Yes.
Causer,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Gaber,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr.
Yes.
You all set, Marlon?
Thank you very much for your time, guys.
Phase 1.
Yep, phase 1 of 50. Thank you again.
Going into the review of pension reports. Bob's ready to jump right on that.
In your packet were the reports from the state. What I've done is also in the packet is given a 5-year history of both of the police and fire pension. It was, as a summary, looking at the police pension first, closed the fiscal year 3/31/20 with accrued liabilities of $18,404,000. And we had assets of $10,081,000, which left an unfunded liability of $8.3 million. So we're 57% funded. Based upon other communities in the state of Illinois, that's pretty good. As we look at how the liabilities break out, we have $9.7 million in liabilities based upon 11 retirees. We have $1.09 million for 2 individuals that are on disability. We have one surviving spouse that has
a liability of 220,000. And then we have deferred liabilities of 1.2 million. What the deferred liabilities are, when someone leaves the force and goes to another community, the ultimate pension will be a combined pension of us and the other community that they go to. Might reference that these liabilities are basically what it will cost to provide the benefits moving forward, and assuming that the $10 million of investments will earn 6.25% per year. So as we get further down in, we'll see what the problem is. Might also mention that all of the benefits that are creating these liabilities are all statutory. The state legislature has said this is the benefits that retired officers and their surviving spouses will get. Okay, let's go on now down to the next one. Let's skip down to the amortization. Next one. Here we go. So with this unfunded liability of $8 million, it's got to be made up sometime. The state has said that needs to be made up by the year 2040 to a level of 90%. So you'll see in the next series of formulas that the total liability is 18 million and the 90% target is 16.5 million. And so we have assets of 10 million. So we have 6.4 million that is subject to additional property tax levy to make up that difference. So you'll see that each of the years is getting less each year because we're moving closer to that 2040 level. So then we divide the 6.4 million. We have an amortization payment of 411,000. Now that on the levy requirements, the next slide. You'll see that the normal cost is what is required to provide the ultimate retirement for the active employees. And you see that 244,000, what needs to be levied to meet that. That represents 31% of payroll. The unfunded liability of 4,411,000, and then the interest is, again, all of these numbers as are 331, and so 331.20. So the interest is the period of time that passes from 331 to when the taxes are actually received. So we have a total levy of 696,876. So see over the last 5 years, that has gone up 300,000. In January of 2020, we were over 7% rate of return, but then the crash of March, it kind of bottomed out real close to that 331. So hopefully these numbers will be much better next year and will help reduce some of that unfunded liability. Through the third quarter of 2020, the fund revenues or the returns were up over 13%. So certainly on track. And this fund is managed by a board that's comprised of two active employees, one retired employee, and two appointments by the mayor. Again, that is statutory. And, they really do the best that they can. That not only does the state say, here's what the benefits are, they also say what we can invest in, and it has a 40% cap on equities in the stock market. So with fixed assets the way they are, we're really kind of behind the eight ball. The one thing that has happened and is in the process of being transitioned is that there's going to be a new state board that will handle the investments for the fund. And the fire pension board is being made up right now. Those restrictions that we have presently will go away, and the state board will function in somewhat the same manner as the IMRF board. And again, they don't have those restrictions, and we are 94% funded with IMRF. So that is the one thing that's going to be happening that will hopefully increase returns. The other thing that has been talked about is once this board is in place of doing a reset and say so instead of having to be 90% funded by 2040, resetting that and perhaps being 40% funded by 2060, which in doing so would cut in half the levy that's required. So as we're now, a couple items down the agenda, going to be building the levy ordinance. The $696,876 is the amount that's going to have to be in the levy ordinance. Questions, comments?
Well, this is Alderman Barr. Having sat on one of those boards in the past, I'm really pleased that the IMRF process is going to work on that particular pension fund as well, because that's on the fireman's board. That was our same difficulty. You have the difficulty of investing, the limitations of what you can invest in. And even on this one, the one thing I noted on this was, they are assuming a 6.25% return, but they actually only they're usually half of that, 3 to 4%. And that's because of those limitations. And then you have a management firm also in there. And that was the only, I guess my only question is once you move to the newer process, the IMRF process, that grouping, do you still have to use the same management firm? I guess it's Marquette.
No, they will not. They will go away because the fund will not be managing any money.
Okay, good. So that's another cost savings.
I'm sure there'll be some fees associated with the state fund, but certainly less. And again, the money that we have in will be segregated, and so our returns, it's not like there'll be one big fund and everybody divvies. We will still have our own returns and actuarial statements.
Gotcha.
So this is kind of shows how everything ties together. So in 5 years, police fund has gone up 300,000. And with PTEL, as we're going to talk about, in essence, we've had to reduce the levy in other funds that amount. Moving on, the fire pension, I won't go all the way through it. You've shown how it all fits together. But again, at the end of 2020, we're 57% funded, $9.5 million of liabilities, 5.45 million of assets, with an unfunded liability of 4 million. And you'll see that the levy required for this year is 393,000, which is down a little bit from the police. They've had some internal things, some withdrawals, and so the end result is that they're going to be a few dollars less than what we did last year.
Thanks, Bob. Again, this is just a review, so we're all up to date and know where we're heading. Next on our agenda is the insurance renewal, which Bob gets to expound upon again. I did note on here that Gallagher, who we've been insuring with, has not had a significant increase for many years. So when we get into this, we'll notice everything.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. Next one. Next one. Next one. Here we go. Here. These are the various types of insurance that is part of the package. The first one is property. Premiums went from 68,000 to 84. The general package of the general liability vehicles and then the marine went from 147 to 163. The umbrella went to from 35 to 39. Cyber liability is up 1,500. Crime is same. Workman's comp is up about 13,000. In discussing this with Gallagher, the municipal markets have kind of taken a real hit. That as they went to market this year, there's several firms that are pulling back on the municipal exposures. That, of course, we've had the weather circumstances, we've had the unrest, civil unrest, the police liability has really become more of an issue. And so all of these factors have kind of all gone into the increase in our fees. As they have been writing other municipalities, ours has not have been as high as they have been. And somewhat of that is because of the good loss history that we've had. On the workman's comp, of course, that's a function of losses and wages. And last year, after our workman's comp audit, we had a refund of $24,000. We'll probably have not quite as much this year, but the other thing is that some of our losses of the last few years are ready to be dropped off, and we should see a drop in workman's comp. So again, our total this year that again is going to have to go into the levy is $636,734. It'd be our recommendation that we go ahead and authorize renewals.
Basically, we're getting a great deal, but not as good as we got last year. But it's not as big an increase as any seen. So Can we get a motion to go ahead with the renewal? Are we all
A
muted?
motion acceptance.
Bill
Kelly.
Callis, I'll second it.
Kelly made the motion, Bill Callis second. We'll do a roll call, please.
Callis,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Hicks,
Don?
Don, Hicks,
Yes, I'm sorry.
okay, Bradshaw,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Gaber,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Eckhoff.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, as the agenda moves on, the levy ordinance is next.
All right,
Back again.
yes. Next slide, please. Starting under the bottom, under P-TEL, again, with our property tax limitations, we're able to increase the levy 1.9%, which was the rate of inflation, from last year's extension. So that's going to, and with the new property of around 500,000 of VAV coming on, we're going to be able to levy an additional 63,000. You'll see that in order to make everything fit and minimize the impact on the general fund as much as possible, we're levying an additional 70,000 to cover the police pension increase. We're levying 40,000 additional in the liability insurance fund we just talked about for 110,000 new dollars. So again, with our limitations of 63,000, we had to do some cutting in order to make that happen. Remember, we were able to reduce the fire pension levy by 2,000, reducing the municipal retirement levy by about 10,000 that has a surplus in it, and reducing the municipal band levy by 35,000. In last year, we had the full levy, and because there was no performances, we didn't spend any money. So basically, we're taking a wash this year. They're going to end the year with about $130,000 surplus, and so this one-time adjustment will not have a negative impact on them. So with that, we are able to, those are the cuts that are made in order to have our increase of 110,000. As we look at the levy ordinance, about 90% of it is used for the police pension, fire pension, municipal retirements, and liability insurance. Just around 10% or 200,000 is actually used for municipal operations, police, fire, parks, recreation. So 10 years ago, that was over $1 million. And so you'll see what the impact has been over that period of time as shrinking, which has had a direct impact on the general fund. But again, with these adjustments, in your packet is the new levy ordinance with those adjustments.
Thanks, Bob. Any more questions for Bob? Hearing no questions, we would look for a motion to approve the ordinance for the levy.
I'll make a motion. Barr.
Mike Barr motions,
I'll second it.
seconded by Jamie. Roll call, please.
Hauser,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Bradshaw, Yes. Myers,
Yes.
Gaber,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
Echo,
yes,
Alice.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on, I believe Jake is on the camera. And he'd like to talk about the bid award for the Red Flex sewer improvement.
Good evening, Mayor Alvey and council.
Jake.
Everybody hear me?
Okay?
Okay. So earlier in
Hold
December,
on, Gabe, we're getting a new slide up here.
okay.
There we go.
That's something that's happened.
So earlier in December, I had sought your permission to go ahead and go out for bid for a sanitary sewer pump station to serve the Recplex. This is something that's been talked about for just about the duration that Recplex has been in service, due to the dysfunction of the septic system, due to the soil conditions and whatnot out there that has been a problem for many years. So we looked at this year to be the year that we serve that with sewer and pump station. So we had a budget number roughly of 200,000 when we went into this fiscal year to put in what we needed to serve that Recplex. Our bids came in a little higher than that, and reasoning behind that is when we went ahead and began design and looked at this, we had two routes we could go. We could look at putting in a very simple small pump station that would serve exclusively the existing structures out there. Or we could look at possibly increasing the size of that to not only be able to serve existing, but to serve any future growth that might take place out there. So we took the approach in designing that to not only serve what's existing, but to serve a wide area surrounding that Recplex in the event we have any future development, any growth, whether it be commercial, industrial, residential, or any additional, excuse me, park services or anything that we would want to add to that Recplex. We looked at being able to have the capacity and the structure to be able to handle that. So we went ahead and made a couple changes to our initial idea on design for that pump station. We went a little deeper in the wet well. We made a slightly bigger force main, and we ran a little bit bigger of electrical service to be able to upgrade the pump size and capacity to be able to serve anything going in the future. So that brought our bids up a little bit. Looking at your memos in the packets, there were 4 bidders. We had Mid-Illinois Mechanical at $384,719. GA Rich and Sons at $311,000 flat. Apple Construction at $387,146.40. And Opperman Construction at $343,474.55, with GA Rich and Sons being the low bidder on that. So based on what we've designed and went out for, I feel that the GA Rich and Sons price at $311,000 is a very good price for what's going on there. There's a very long run for the force main. We increased the depth of our pump station well to a little over 20 feet, which would allow us to run gravity sewer in the proposed area that's up on your screen that was in your packets. All the areas in pink is where we'd be able to serve with gravity sewer based on the design of the pump station that we went out for bid for. So it's my opinion that we're better off now spending a little extra to prevent us from having to replace that pump station or replace the force main later on should we get some developmental growth within that area. Similar to what we've done in other pump stations, including the Route 23 pump station, the Airport Road pump station and the West pump station, just north of the AutoZone and West Branch of Baker Pontiac. Those were sized for anticipated growth. So I felt it was advantageous to do the same thing with this pump station. Since we're putting in the infrastructure, let's do it right and let's put everything there so there will be no need to increase or redesign or reinstall in the future, that entire area is covered. So that is the main reason for the increase of the bidding prices. I would recommend that we would accept GA Rich Sons bid of $311,000. It is anticipated that should we accept that, we should be able to get this pump station up and running by the beginning of next year's softball, baseball, and everything season out at the Recplex to be able to serve it next season. So pending any questions or concerns, I ask that we accept the GA Rich and Sons lowest bid.
Ms. Myers, I move we accept the GA Rich and Sons bid.
Jared Cosner, second.
Jake, I agree that's the right thing to do to increase the size. I'm just curious, how many dollars did that add to the original guesstimate?
Well, really the only thing we changed for the increase to be able to handle it is we went a little deeper on our pump station well. We went about 8 feet deeper and a 6-foot diameter well. And we increased our force main pipe from 4-inch to 6-inch. Excuse me. And ran a little heavier gauge wire to feed the pump station controls for an added increase of horsepower pump in the future should we need it. So the reality is, in my opinion, had we not made those changes, we still would have been roughly 80 to 85% of that bid number as it is. I think we would have been over what we anticipated anyway. So I don't see the additions being really that substantial as opposed to what the bids would have been had we not made them. Again, we're talking an extra 8 feet of depth and digging a 6-foot hole and increase the pipe size by, a 2-inch pipe size. So
Well, good job. Good job, Jake.
thank you.
Any other questions for Jake? We have a motion and a second. Otherwise, we'll have roll call, please.
Hicks,
Not hear Don answer.
But Don just texted me and said he lost everything on his computer, so he's in the dark on his end.
Bradshaw,
Can't hear what she said.
I can't hear Sherry.
I can't hear Sherry either.
Myers,
Try again.
Hicks, Bradshaw,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Gaber,
Yes.
Willie,
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Chalice,
Yes.
Hauser.
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Moving on, we have the authority to submit the Elliott Heisner subdivision to the Illinois EPA. I don't see, Brian, are you on?
I am here, yeah.
There he is.
Brian, do you want to comment on this?
Yes, this has been a few years in the making, I believe. This sewer stops at about McDonald's, and the Elliott property there by Mike's Glass Plus does not have sewer. There's a few other properties in the area that do not, and it has come up that they have requested sewer. And this subdivision has been recently platted and filed. So as part of this process, we are proposing that we would extend a sewer from McDonald's property to the south to get to the Mike's Glass Plus area, and then to the east, we'd be able to serve those properties. We'd also be able to serve the properties that are along the south portion of Ladd Street, and also I forget the name of it now. I think it's JB Hawks and that area. So that whole area would be able to be served by sewer. Right now, there's some areas that or some businesses that do not have anything at all, have requested septic, and we'd be able to serve those areas with the sewer. And what we're requesting now is that we could proceed with our drawings, send to the EPA, and let them know that we are wanting to do this project with city funds.
Everyone familiar with the area we're talking about, I assume? Any questions for Brian?
I have one, Bill. The properties he was talking about to the east, that would probably take up like the warehouse area down in there, Superior, Landris's.
That's correct. That would be the area, specifically Landris, Superior Landscape. Those areas would be able to be served by this sewer as well.
Thanks, Brian.
You're welcome.
There would be tackling fees and things that the businesses that would add on to this program. Right now, we need to send this to the EPA to get approval, and we need a motion to do that.
Causer, I make a motion to accept.
This is Jamie. I'll second. Never mind, time. Did you say to second it? I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Bradshaw? Yes. Myers?
Yes.
Gaber?
Yes.
Willie?
Yes.
Barr?
Yes.
Eckhart?
Yes.
Callis?
Yes.
Hauser?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, could we get Don's vote on the previous ones, the sewer at the Rexplex? We lost him during that.
We lost your ability to vote during the Rexplex.
I heard it come back on about the time I got on, and I would vote yes on that, yes.
Yes on that?
Thank you, Bob.
We have approval of the meeting schedule for the year 2021. Nothing changed. First and third Mondays for our council meeting. And then, of course, we have scheduled meetings for the various commissions, the Fire and Police Commission, Police Pension meeting, and the Fire Commission meeting. And that would probably take us to the Planning Commission, but hopefully we don't have much to worry about there. Any additions or corrections or comments? Hearing none, we would take a motion to approve the meeting schedule.
I would so
Then Willie, I
move.
move.
Motion by John Roy, second by Don Heck. Roll call, please.
Myers?
Yes.
Gaber?
Yes.
Willie?
Yes.
Barr?
Yes.
Echo?
Yes.
Callis?
Yes.
Hauser?
Yes.
Hicks?
Yes.
Bradshaw? Yes.
Thank you. Moving on, the Employee Christmas Gift Program, which we've had for many years. For the full-time employees, we send them $50, and then our part-time and on-call people, $25 cash gift. Any comments or suggestions before we? Hearing none, we would take a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah.
I'll second, Kelly.
Only seconded? I didn't hear who first.
Barr.
Thanks, Barr. Roll call, please.
Tabor,
Yes.
Lily,
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Eckhoff,
Yes.
Alice,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Bradshaw, yes, Myers.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on, the Bolt subdivision sign. Chris, are you available?
Yes, I'm here. About a month and a half ago, the only remaining entrance pillar to the Bolt subdivision was struck and destroyed. If you remember a few years ago, the one on the north side of the street, the same thing happened. We don't have, there's no, the people just hit and run. We don't have any accident reports or anything like that to be able to go back on them. So we just need a decision one way or another to replace it. It's going to cost around $5,000, a little less than that. Replace it with something similar to what was there. So we just, we didn't replace the last one because there was an existing one already there. So we just need to get direction one way or the other on the second one, if we so choose to replace it.
Chris, if I remember, the north one, reason why we allowed them not to put it back was a visibility issue, if I remember right. There's the one that is the south one now going to create a similar visibility problem, or is it time to move it back? Or
I think where it's at, it's fine. It's pretty well west of the stop sign, so you can pull past it to be able to see. Ideally, we'd like to use the foundation that's there.
Sure.
That would save some expense to have to replace that. But I really don't see a problem with vision where that south one is.
Chris, why is there a need to have one in the first place?
I was wondering that too.
That's just a matter of preference. I know obviously the residents there, we've heard from them already, they would be interested in having it. But it is not of a benefit for the city other than to have the subdivision named.
As I recall, it was put there by the original developers, correct?
Yes.
Jerry Causer here. Hey, Chris, anybody else, is there any reason why we couldn't construct some less expensive sign on that same spot, like a wooden sign with a nice face on it or something?
Or nothing at all?
Yeah, or nothing at all.
Or we can
Maybe a
do
little cornerstone. I don't know.
we can, yeah, there's all kinds of options we could do there.
This is Myers. I think last time we did this, one of the major concerns was setting a precedence for other subdivisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was brought up at that time too.
And we're setting up another target for the cars to hit.
Exactly.
Good point too.
Good point, John.
Years ago,
Good point. Can we table this for a while or?
I think, in our subdivision, we do have the boulevard entrance, and we residents have a fund that we use to make beautifications in that entrance. It is a city right of way and the city mows it for us, but we paint the sign, we plant the flowers, we do all that because we want our entrance to look nice. And perhaps, they could come up with a similar type of activity if they wanted to have an entrance. Every area of town is a subdivision if you wanted to look at it that way, and we don't have signs in other places. That's just my 2 cents.
Any other comments?
I don't know.
It's probably a good idea to table this to a committee to see if it's even necessary. And if so, then to put more of a feasible idea to it. Were we able to salvage the original DeBolt signage?
Yes, we have the plaque and we have the brass part of the original lamp that was on top of it. We'd have to get a new glass made for that, but we do have the plaque.
So we can make something small and simple then if we needed to then.
We can do whatever we need to do if that's the way we want to go.
I'm not saying $5,000 isn't $5,000, but in the scheme of things, I mean, I don't know how much less you could put a steel or wood structure up. I don't know. I guess I haven't looked at it that close.
Table this to committee?
Kurt raised a valid point, and we did talk about setting a precedent the last time that we talked about this, and we decided at that time that we didn't want to set a precedent. So I don't know what has changed in the last 7 or 8 years.
Tend to agree with Brian on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see reason for this either.
I'm inclined to think the same way.
Better look at the whole thing and see if we have other precedents that we need to look at too. So I would really like a motion to go to committee on this. Or table it to committee is, I guess, the best way to put it.
I make that motion.
Thank you. Second by,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Chris, that is city right away that's on, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, I want to be sure it wasn't, okay.
I'm just going to explain my vote ahead of time. I'm going to vote no because I think we should just vote yes or up or down no now without having to take it to committee.
I agree, Brian. Myers.
Again, I'm inclined to think the same way.
I'll pull my, I'll go that way too if you guys want. It's fine with me.
Yeah.
Take the roll call. Taking a roll call to table to committee. Lily,
No.
Barr,
No.
Becca,
No,
Callis,
No,
Hauser,
No.
Hicks,
No.
Bradshaw, no, Myers,
No.
Gaber.
No.
that might be a first.
It might.
I just wanted to move ahead. That's all I was doing.
Moving on, I'm assuming everybody read over that COVID update. They read the packet. Comments that you have on that subject? I'm sure you've all read the numbers that we've had. Our numbers are actually looking better, but the overall numbers are still terrible. We're still getting, 30, 40, 50 people every day. The hospital has said that they are able to handle our issues. Their ICU is still available, and we still have people doing well, but the numbers are not good. And the pandemic issues from the holiday weekend didn't improve greatly. So,
comments that people are having trouble hearing you.
They're having trouble hearing me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk up there. Okay. Just so you can hear better, I've said that the numbers that we get are not exceptionally great. Our numbers have improved locally, but statewide and region-wide, they have not. If anything, they've gone the wrong way. So we're not getting the curve back into focus, as it were. So we still need to educate and push mask and social distancing as much as we can through our Facebook, through our media, through everything we do. And individually, when we're out and about, we need to be setting a good example by using our masks, distancing, and then highlighting it to those that don't seem to understand what that means. I've been in a few places where I wondered if people understood why they have masks, because they have them under their chin, or like I'm right now, have mine hanging off my ear, you know. So I think if we can do that and set the example, it will be beneficial. I haven't seen any place that's doing a bad job. I just seen a lot of individuals that are not understanding distancing and the practices. How about individually? Have any of you run into situations? Anything at the on the street, at the various stores you go into?
I think for the most part, people are wearing masks. Not everybody, but for the most part, people I see are.
And when they're not, I remind them to put them on. I'm not opposed to embarrassing myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be more of a forgetful thing when they come in the pizza place. They'll stop halfway through and say, "Oh, I forgot," and then we'll all have ours on and say, "Okay, just come ahead and let's get it done and get out of here." It's just, yeah.
Courthouse security is pretty tight on that. People going to the courthouse too.
Just jumping on the bandwagon with anything else other than continuing to stress the mask and distancing to the individuals? You know, we have a potential later this week or early next week to get the ice rink open. And of course, we're being limited to groups of 10 there. And we want to have as many people as we can. Taylor, are you on here?
I'm here, yep.
Could you address that for just a second? What we're doing?
Sure.
People involved.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, we're going to have groups of 10, and what we're doing, you know, part of the requirements through the governor's office and IDPH is all of them have to be in reservations. So the entire time that we're open, you know, you have to make a reservation if you're going to come to the ice rink. So we have a spot for online, and then we also, you can just call the rec center and we can put that in for you. But this counts for spectators and for participants. So even if somebody's just going there to watch, we're just going to have a maximum of 10 no matter what. And it's going to be our time slots.
Taylor, are you going to reevaluate that hour time slot? I mean, that seems maybe kind of long. I know
Yeah.
maybe not to start with, but
yeah, that's what we're looking at, because we were thinking by the time they get their skates on, you know, there's going to be a transition period between the two groups. You know, that's kind of what we thought just to start out. You know, this whole thing is going to be kind of up in the air, making changes as we go. So yeah, if it does seem long and there's people that aren't going to be on the ice for that long, sorry, my cat's in the way, then we'll change it.
I'd be worn out in 10 minutes, so.
Yeah, it could get changed pretty quickly here. But, like the mayor mentioned too, the weather, this is going to be, we're hoping, for Friday, we don't know if that's going to happen. We still got a couple inches to go of water. But, the weather with 50 degrees, I talked about that before when we were kind of going through this process, is 50 degrees was kind of that benchmark. And we're going to be approaching that for 2 straight days. So it's just going to be interesting. We'll see. It's all kind of, Mother Nature at this point. There's rain in the forecast too. So taking it day by day. But we'll keep everybody informed the best we can. I think we lost volume at the city hall. Are you guys hearing anything?
Yeah, I am. I am.
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm still not hearing anything. Yes. I heard Bob.
Well, it's rain out there. Weather cooperates a little bit. We'll be up and running shortly. We're all looking forward to it. We get lots of calls, so we're hoping to have a nice, steady turnaround. Yes. Under the mayor's comments, I hope everybody got a copy of the latest letter we're sending out requesting our local bars, restaurants, etc., to conform more to the mandates. We've had several meetings on this subject with a variety of people and sources, and I will basically try to get together with you individually and update you with what's going to be happening there, or not happening in many cases. So again, I'd like to stress that we all set a good example and try to instruct people on mask and distancing and work from there. And then keep your emails and stuff open for the actual opening of the ice rink and other things that are going to be happening this winter season. City council comments.
I'll volunteer. Excuse me. I have a couple comments as usual. Number one, I don't know where Brian Gaber is, but that's the slowest sunset I've ever seen. But even more surprising than that is, in all the years I've been on the council, I've never been to a meeting when Alan Schrock has anything to say.
I just need to also comment on Brian's comedy show you're putting on there. It's on my screen, it looks like you're floating on that ocean. Sometimes you're upside down.
Yeah, I want to volunteer to be the first alderman to bust his butt on the ice. As soon as you can find me a pair of skates.
I want to compliment the city crews for all the work they've done, not only on the ice skating rink, but the lights in the park and the downtown. It is magnificent.
The downtown looks beautiful.
Anybody been to Fairway View subdivision ought to take a ride through there too.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yes, I put my my grandsons in the back of the car and drove them through there over the weekend, and they enjoyed it.
Well, come back on December 19th from 5 to 7. We're going to have 3 Santa Clauses wandering around by foot, handing out candy to cars that come through.
When is that? I'm sorry.
December 19th, the Saturday before Christmas.
Administrator.
Yes, in your packet, in the staff updates, talked about a need for a finance committee. Wondered about availability. I'd like to do that one in person if we could. we'll be under 10. Looking at Monday afternoon. How's that look for everybody?
I took next week off, so I can come anytime.
Right?
Yes, I'm good anytime.
I'm okay. Callis.
You know my status.
Bill, are you looking at your schedule there?
Bill Callis, yeah, I'm okay.
You okay?
Monday, yes.
Don Hicks is good.
Okay. Ryan? Tabor? Looks like we have lost him. Maybe the sun did set there.
What time is it?
I think he got a shark.
I think was it sunsetting of TIFF, Bob?
4 o'clock,
Okay.
okay? Does that work for you, Kelly?
Yep, that'll work.
City Hall?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be in here, so we can spread out. That's all I have. We have some technical issues to resolve here, I think, but for a first crack, I think we did okay.
Any public comments that we can call in with, or?
They needed to register at a time and no one did.
No one registered? No. And there's been no call-ins that we're aware of? Okay, very good. Well, with that, I'd like to say that the Christmas tree looks really nice up on the square. With all the lights for the ice rink. It's just a fabulous place to take a few minutes and stroll around, especially because the weather's been very cooperative. So with that, I have a need for a motion to adjourn. I see Don Hicks and
I think Murph had his hand up first. Murphy had his hand up first. He wants to make
yeah, Murph does. Yes, I'm sure he does. Motion by Hicks, second by Jerry. Roll call.
Barr,
Yes.
Echo,
Yes.
Chalice,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Hicks, Bradshaw,
Yes.
Myers, Gaber,
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Thank you for a great opportunity, and it turned out pretty darn good. Thanks again.